Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for taking time out and deciding to spend the next hour and a half here, rainy day. I'm happy that we have so many people. As always, there are regular faces, there are some irregular faces, and there are some people, as always, new faces. So, life has been topsy-turvy for me personally the last couple of days. As you can see, I'm alone here. Many of you would have seen the invite poster, and you will see that there are hardly anybody from that poster who's actually present here except for the main person, which is the author. So that's the topsy-turviness part of it. A lot of people have asked me, where is Eglavia? We all want Eglavia. Unfortunately, the mosquitoes near his house also wanted it. So it's down with dengue, and therefore he can't join us. So I have taken the easier option of not even trying to do a book summary because this is a nice clean room. Thanks to IMDR, they've given us this room. I don't want this room swept with tomatoes and eggs. So I'm not going to do any summary. But for people who don't know me, my name is Advait Kurlekar. I represent a company called Upon Management Consultants. And we've been doing a session called Between the Lines for some time now. This is a monthly free open for all session, where every month we identify a book that is good book to read, or often than not, like today, it has been a recently published book. And Eglavia, which many of you know, all of you know, does a fantastic summary in terms of presenting a summary of that book or talking about that book. And then depending on the topic of the book, we invite veterans of the industry and I moderate a panel discussion on the topic. This today's session is 106th session, thanks to all of you. So, thank you. And we've not really done a count, but maybe it is the 15th session where we're again fortunate to have authors in the room. And therefore, when the author is in the room, the format slightly changes. Today, of course, it is dramatically changed. And since I talked of topsy-turvy, let me start from the end or the bottom by giving you I've already done a vote of thanks to all of you, but let me do a vote of thanks to all others as well. Right from Express Bookstore, Rohit Jarajani and his team, who again have been partnered with us for so many years now. And you got the BTM kind of thing, so please do that more often than not. I would thank Professor Sanmat Shetty here and IMDR for giving us this venue and being a venue host. They've been very kind to offer this place as well as the auditorium as it will be required. So thanks to them. Like I said, there are regular faces and not so regular faces. So let me again thank Aman Rajabali here, who's an NHRDN president. Yeah, okay. From NHRDN, and I think there are a couple of other people as well. And then we have our supporters, which is Rohan Builders. We have Pustakwale, so who's now from this month have been good enough to sponsor the books that we give to all the panelists. Pustakwale is basically an organization which is like a mobile bookstore. So they'll come to your campus, come to your corporate, come to your office and sell good books. Somebody asked me why I'm doing this. Is it to inculcate the sense of reading, etc., etc. I said, maybe I don't have such big kind of vision, but he has that. So that's what he's doing. And then we have Gia from Doubletree Hilton kind of thing. Doubletree Hilton, which is of course the 5-star property in Chichwad, or the Hilton Group, who also have been supporting us with their gift hampers. So panelists, be assured you walk out like you walked out of a mall. All this is yours, one each. Okay, so without much ado, let me start by formally introducing and inviting Mr. Bharat Pakuja. Please give him a Bharat has been here as a panelist before. Enough fantastically occasion with TNBC, please. But first time as an author. So he's written a book, which is the book that is on sale here right now. It is not Art of Living, but Art of Living Well. I don't know how many people have asked you the questions. I don't know. But few have. Very few. Okay.
And I think one correction, the TMTC was also for another book.
Yes, of course. You're at this. Yeah. The three of you had done that book. Yes. Correct. Yeah. My mistake. Bharat is a Tata Group veteran. You can't have more Tata veteran than what Bharat has been. Both in India, Jamshedpur as well as New York. Tata Sons, New York. Is that right? Yeah, and of course in India as well. So this is his fifth book, sixth book. Okay, so he started his career, and I'm going to ask that question on technical part or the quality part. Then there's a book on Kashmir, and then there are these bunch of books which are slightly on the other side of the brain, like I say. So that's what it is. So unfortunately, his co-author and wife Savita could join us here for she's taken ill. So we wish her speedy recovery. But let me start the discussion by asking you a couple of questions on the book.
Thank you very much.
Standard question for any author is why this book, why now, and why this topic?
Okay, so let me first say thank you for having me here, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence. It's always, as I had mentioned, for an author, it's always heartwarming to have an audience to not only read their books but to understand the story behind the story. Yes. And you obviously have started off with a very, very pertinent question: why this book now, and what made me write it, or what made something me write it? So here is the background. When we were in Jamshedpur, we used to write a column in the Telegraph newspaper. What they have taught you at business school. And this column was a very, very big hit, and I'm talking about the 1990s, the late 1990s. It was a column that appeared every fortnight or every week with different questions from the audience, and there were boxes in Jamshedpur where people put in questions and have an email them to us also. And the kind of questions and that would come to us were, if you did you made a pie chart of the kind of questions that came to you, you would see that they fall into typically in three buckets. One was about what must I do to be able to be effective. So one bucket. Second bucket was what can I do to be able to not get hassled by interacting with others. And the third bucket was how can I get the right promotion? How can I make sure that I'm not pushed down by intermediate boss and so on. And when we went into this deeply, we said this is something which requires us to write a comprehensive book which will address these questions. So we wrote that book in 2016. Yeah. And that book was called Navigating the Maze. And that book was also jointly written by us. But then we got more questions. And people said, you have to address this, you have to address that. So what we did is we took some of the material from the old book and we added to it further. We removed a large part of the old stuff, added something to this. By now COVID had happened. COVID had brought about some new questions. And so we ended up writing The Art of Living Well. Because frankly, this little slim book is exactly what the title says. It gives you insights into managing your environment so that you truly are able to live a happy, relaxed, joyful life. Now, I must add that it isn't as we were to climb up to this position. Your default state, all of us as humans, our default state is this: relaxed, joyful, loving, at peace with ourselves, with others, productive, creative. But we have forgotten the art of being there at all times. So this book, ladies and gentlemen, is really an answer to the many, many questions that have been asked to us over the years by professionals. And the timing COVID had happened, people were still flustered with their lives. So we said, this is a good time. And I'm very happy to say that a dear friend who had set up this new publishing house, he approached us and said, look, I'm keen that we have this book out quickly. And he did just that.
So how many months of labor?
It took quite some time. Initially, the Austin book,
Diwali of 20.
it came out in the Diwali of 2023, yes, but by the time we had it in our hands, it was probably Christmas time. But it took close to about 8 months of additional work, working with the old material and adding more stuff. So there is a reference in this book to the old book as well, because that's the nucleus. And that should not be surprising, because after all, many things that we as humans do haven't changed because our minds haven't changed. Even the Bhagavad Gita, which is 5,000 years old, gives us something which is relevant to this day, because our minds haven't changed. And that's the source of a large part of our superpowers as humans.
Now, when you say that, live life peaceful, joyful, happy, and at peace, I'm sure you're not referring to from it from a materialistic perspective. I'm assuming that. It's not a question of life in luxury, etc. But it's a different life in luxury at a different level. So what's that level when you say live at peace, live joyfully, live at love?
Very, very insightful question, right? So you're right about one thing. This is not about having more material stuff in your life. Not at all. Material stuff can never give you joy or peace. In fact, material stuff will make you more hassle. And that's exactly what Mary Kondo wrote about. Many of you follow Surya's Doringer. And Mary Kondo said, declutter. And she took America by storm, because everybody in America is to go everywhere about consuming. There's a after Thanksgiving, there's the Black Friday sale that people run over each other trying to get something or the other from the stores. So America needed Mary Kondo. Fortunately, our culture does not necessarily emphasize the need for material things for happiness. We already know that material things are not the answer. So what is the answer? The answer is, and that's the first chapter of our book, which we call self-mastery. The answer lies in understanding yourself and regulating yourself properly so that you can navigate yourself through life harmoniously. So it is not about acquisition, it's about knowing. And I also mentioned to you that one of the things about knowing about yourself is, what are you really? What will give you joy? What is it that is animating you? You're not just your body, you're more than that. And if you aren't your body, and if you understand that in the objective world, the body, your thinking, your house, your car, they will all depreciate. They will all become, decrepit over time. That understanding is also a way for you to rise about the laws of nature and be in a realm where you're perpetually at ease, comfortable, happy, joyful, productive. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I have a question on that. Yes. When I started reading the book, like you rightly mentioned, the first thing was about self-mastery. I said, this looks like a big eligibility criteria to sort of, master yourself. Because suddenly you're saying self-mastery. And, when I started reading it, it's all about emotions, it's about apprehensions, it's about assumptions. And then you suddenly bring it back to reality. So is it something like what they say, Mithya versus Satya?
No, we haven't gone so deeply into this whole thing.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is, we are, as humans, we are emotional beings. On that, there should be no doubt. We are human because we have emotions. But what is important is that if your emotions do not allow you to function effectively, then something has to be done about those emotions. Now, the interesting thing is, we write about this here, great length. our emotions are usually an outcome of a stimulus. There's a stimulus out there in the world. You interact with the stimulus and some emotions emerge. But it isn't as that same stimulus will give the same emotional response to different people. So the question that researchers have asked is, they've said that if that is the case, what is that other aspect which enables, say, Anurag to have one kind of a response to that stimulus, for Advait to have another, for someone else to have a third? So the way you think about those events or those stimuli will determine the emotion. So Albert Ellis, who was a very, very renowned psychologist and behavioral theorist, he talked about rational emotive therapy. He said that if you have beliefs in your mind about life, about other people, about your work, about anything in general, and depending on what kind of a stimulus comes to you, if you allow that belief to impinge on that stimulus, you will get a different kind of an emotion compared to somebody else who holds a different set of beliefs. So if I have to be effective at work, do you think it would help me if I say, oh, this is a horrible company to work for? If I come to work every day saying, this is a bad company, my boss is a bad person, my work is depressing. If I say this to myself 24/7, do you really think that I will ever be able to find anything joyful in my work? So the question is, self-mastery begins by understanding it, right? What is it that I'm saying about myself and the world? What are the beliefs I'm carrying in my mind? Because those beliefs will eventually determine how I look at the world. It's like you put on a pair of glasses and then see the world through that. So beliefs are like that. In fact, this takes me to when Hadhavanchi went to Sri Lanka, he was so angry that when he saw Sita there, he found her there all by herself, forlorn. He came back, and then in Tulsidas Ramayana, apparently there's a description of Ashok Patil. It said there are white lilies. Hadhavanchi said, no, they want white lilies. I never saw them. So somebody says, what was the color of the lilies? He said, red. He said, that's because you were angry. You saw them red. And then, the key should be that what you carry in your mind is really what has a bearing on how you look at the world. So if you want to live joyfully and well, you have to understand that the world is also a place that after you, it's a place which you can navigate and work with in order for you to be effective.
But you've also pondered the importance of communication as part of the second step of abstinence of this thing. And communication, I would mean verbal, non-verbal language, body language, and comprehensive. Why is it so important?
So, self-mastery is obviously the starting point. But the second important thing is, we as social animals, we thrive on interaction. And yet, if you ask anybody, how is your interaction with your superior at work? How is your interaction with your spouse's sister? How is your interaction with so-and-so friends? And, oh my God, don't ask me. Because people haven't learned the art of communicating to build rapport. So we have the second chapter of our book is about building rapport through communication. And not just ordinary communication. First and foremost, as Advait was mentioning, there is no doubt that non-verbal communication is far more important than verbal. For the simple reason that our brains are hardwired to pick up non-verbal communication cues first, and then it picks up verbal cues. But when the verbal cues and the non-verbal cues are in alignment, then the communication is impactful and it is effective. So the communication process has to be understood, it has to be learned, mastered, and there is one more thing that we strongly recommend in this book, And that is the art of communicating assertively. Now, assertiveness is something which I was very, very fortunate to learn at the age of 16. And I have perfected it over the years. I made a film on it, which is also available because it was made by Tara Steele when I was there. And it was so good. And the managers were so effectively impacted by that. Dr. Irani said, make this available as a gift from Tara Steele. So it's available at the national, there's a organization called HRD Films or something. They sell it. And assertiveness says that, look, I will communicate my boundaries, my expectations, my needs very openly and in a very polite and a decent fashion, respecting that you too can do the same. And we find middle ground. So a lot of the conflict that we see in the world today arises because people aren't communicating properly. Or they believe that communication has to be, you're going to be a tough guy, you're going to be interesting. Or on the other end of the spectrum, you're going to be passive. But both passive communication or aggressive communication are dysfunctional. And there's also a middle thing called passive-aggressive communication, which is manipulation, where you make another person feel low and down. All these three forms of communication are dysfunctional, and we make it very, very clear that one of the important elements of living well is to be able to communicate with everybody, irrespective of who the person is, not avoiding that person. Communicating assertively, expressing your boundaries. Thank you very much. Using I statements. I don't like this. Thank you very much for inviting me here. But I'm busy with something else. Politely, respecting yourself, respecting others. When you practice this, as I have for the past so many decades now, it becomes second nature and nothing in the world will ever ruffle you. And I'm not getting you this. I'm really speaking from my own lived experience. There is nobody in the world whom if I can't interact with, I can interact with everybody. And I will be comfortable doing so. And we talk about that in the book.
The other thing that you mentioned is work as service. So what do you mean by that? I mean, all of us work for different reasons.
Yes, but at the heart of the way, there has to be a desire to serve. There's a huge amount of work that's been done on, purpose-led lives or purpose-driven work and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about using your skills and your unique gifts to serve others. That's all it is. Yes, if you serve others in a job, in a vocation, in any kind of activity that gives you joy, wonderful. If you know that in the process of giving yourself joy, you're also serving others, wonderful. If you're also able to make some money through that, excellent. But you see the emphasis. The emphasis is on serving, not on making money, not on growth, not on growth may happen also. But that is not the primary focus. The focus is service. And only when you work with the sense of service do you truly contribute to value. Because value will not happen if you are doing something for yourself. Because the creation of value is you're keeping the other's needs in mind. So it's these are all the interconnected ideas and why the book is very slim. And it has only 3 chapters. Self-mastery, international excellence, and the world of work. It encompasses everything that we as humans really are concerned about.
The way you described the last part looks like there's a correlation between value you create and the values you have.
Absolutely. Yes, very true. So the value you create is through service. Now, if you understand, and this again goes back to the first chapter, self-mastery, if you truly understand who you are, If you truly understand that you are a child of life itself, then you understand that you are not unconnected with either the world or nature or other earthlings or Mother Earth itself. You're connected. You're an integral part of it. So when you understand this, and when you work from this deep understanding, can you ever harm anybody else? Can your work harm the earth? Can your work harm the forests? So you have to appreciate that the moment you understand your connection with life, it immediately raises your consciousness to a level where your work, where your leadership style undergoes a transformation. So when we talk about conscious leadership, conscious capitalism, what is that? It's simply a realization, ladies and gentlemen, that we are committed to life itself, and business is but a subservient, a small subset, a subservient subset of life itself. So that attitude has to pervade your decision making, the kind of things you do, and that gets us back to what you said, the values with which you live and govern and run your business.
So before we get the two other
Yes.
guests here, two small questions for you. Of these three things, one is there a chronological order in which you need to sort of do this to master? And which of these, in your own personal view and experience, is easier or tougher?
So I think if I give the metaphor of a tree, self-mastery is the root. And when the roots are strong, when the fruits are sweet and wholesome. So if you have strong roots, that means if you've mastered yourself, you are bound to be able to function more effectively. Now imagine another tree has sturdy roots. Now it's interacting, expanding and interacting with other trees in the forest and so on. Imagine that's a metaphor. The interactional excellence part comes in. So the trees or the humans have to teach others, create more value to be effective. And that's where the interpersonal excellence part comes in. And then having mastered that and having got sturdy roots through your own awareness of yourself, what do you do with your life? You serve others. And then sit and have fun in the process. You know, I really find it very, very difficult for to understand why does life have to be serious. And I see a lot of serious faces in the young day. It was like that. What is the message that God is going to share with us? I ain't going message. It's a very, very fundamental, basic message. It's not complicated, but it means you to be aware. You know, it's as they say, it is sometimes the most, the most fundamental things are the simplest things in the world to understand.
That's really a great part.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're so caught up in looking at things. Oh my God, it has to be like quantum mechanics or something. No, it's like that. It's very, very fundamental, but doing it sometimes takes years and years of practice. As the Buddha said, every child of 8 will know this, but few people of 80 can practice it. And that's the test. But that is the secret. If you don't implement it, it won't happen.
And one final question, if we call the others. You've been practicing this for decades, you say, but is there any other example in which many of us would know who you think has done this or achieved this self-mastery?
There are thousands and thousands. Actually, they able to your next door neighbor, the shopkeeper in Bandir who sells you the gari. It has nothing to do with anything but the fact that anybody you see is joyful, happy in whatever that person is doing. Trust me, that person has understood the code of life.
Thank you, and round of applause to them. So, Now, may I invite two more panelists? And first of all, before inviting them again, from the bottom of my heart, thanks for filling up to the chairs here, or the last minute kind of thing. Please invite Kumla Bai and Great to meet him. I asked Kumla, what is this shortest way I can introduce you? He said coach, consultant, and sounding board for CXO. So that's it. Vivek and I are fellow IITians, so we know each other for quite some time now. He's a person where, all of us are supposed to have two sides of the brain. He lives both sides of the brain. So his daytime job is in terms of agility and coding, and he works with SKA, Square Kilometer Array, which is something biggest telescope in the world, etc., etc. But otherwise, he is a mindfulness coach. So I don't know how these two kind of interact, but that's the two sides to him. So thank you, Vivek. Thanks, Anurag. So hopefully the mics are working. So Anurag, let me start with you. What's your definition of inner self?
I think it doesn't need further explanation than what Paras said. The word itself explains that knowing your inner world and knowing it comprehensively is the opportunity, is the blessing which I believe majority is unable to comment or invest on. This is something so beautiful, and it goes well with the title of the book, what and his wife has written. It actually helps you to live your life to fullest. And what I wonder, that in spite of so many people writing, so many research happening, Tasha Eurich has published a wonderful book called Self-Insight, okay, where she's connecting insight with the outside and trying to help an individual to see oneself in a very wholesome manner. Right? And I think that's where the opportunity is, that in our work and life, we consciously help people to embark on that beautiful journey. And the important aspect, while I was so fascinated with what Bharat was talking, and I was hoping that you won't get us on these chairs and interrupt the flow. But opportunity for the parents is so much today, that the childhood is no more same and similar what our generation experienced. It has completely changed. And therefore, I feel that the inner world, as the experts call it, individuation process. If the parents does not take responsibility or ownership, or maybe both, this inner self and the root system, will not sufficiently nourished, and which is going to throw up multiple emotional challenges, which Bharat was alluding to. And therefore, these are something very precious, I believe, to invest.
Vivek, come to you. You did mention about self-awareness, but I'm making a blanket statement here that of all the people one knows oneself the least. Is that right? And how do you then start becoming more self-aware and eventually master oneself if you don't know yourself as much as you would like to know?
Anurag also said, the way Bharat introduced the topic itself so much is that I think both of us can only draw from it. He's already said to answer maybe all of your questions. So, as the very first question, I think where Bharat alluded to your natural state, being joyful, fun, loving, full of humor, full of that sense of lightness and joy, and so on. And if we are very often caught up in a web of this challenge, this problem, and it's the challenge that's treated as fun and joyful, then of course that is in no way diminishing from your understanding of your true self. But if it contracts you and takes you to a space of being limited, then yes, you have not understood truly who you are, because then you're living in that very small and contracted, the ever contracting bubble, as it were. And just that realization or that touch of this space, which is that there is far, far more potentiality in me. And again, not me only because of who I am, in this body and mind, but because of all that I have access to. I am a creature who is a part of the universe, a part of nature. When you start getting that insight, I think then, you could say that you become truly self-aware. And that's why it's interesting in a way sometimes, even when they write it, you have this, small self, like SCLF with small letters, and then there's this SCLF with capital letters, and they are both the same, because in a way, the path to the other is through one of them. But it is when you understand that distinction that you could say that you're earlier in error when you understood yourself, and then you're no longer in that error when you understand the other self.
But just taking on what he said is that you understand the potential that you have in you, right, in this journey of self-discovery. Is there a danger, therefore, of me self-deprecating myself that, oh, there's so much potential and where am I? What have I done so far? Is it a measure of self-worth?
So let's do that swing. The key idea really is that, do you identify with your limited understanding of your body, mind, or do you really know that you are a fractal of the creative intelligence of the universe? And I use this phrase, by the way, a lot, especially when I'm coaching young professionals in college. I say, you are a fractal of the creative intelligence of the universe. So what is the why fractal? A fractal, as we tell you, is something, the smallest part, which has all the qualities of the whole. So you are, the body mind is a form. And there is a story in the book which you put, which was written by Savita and myself, about a boy who comes from the ocean. And after the boy has been living amongst people for a few decades, that was,
This is the boy made of sea, sand.
exactly. The boy made of the ocean, sea, sand, salt. And he says, oh my God, I'm an orphan. When the old lady who actually manifested from the ocean, when she passed away, this boy says, I'm an orphan. Nobody, where I come from? And so on and so forth. Whereas the child had only forgotten where it had come from. This is just like us. We are all creatures or creations of the universe. So the self-deprecating part comes in when you see yourself only as a body. But if you truly understand that you are a fractal of the creative intelligence of the universe, then you are completely at ease, irrespective of what happens in the objective.
Okay, fair enough. So there is a reality check that happens or needs to happen there.
Yes.
Anurag, what if that reality check is not so positive?
And that's a reality, man.
Yeah,
Because when I was talking about and when I dropped the word called individuation, there could be instances or incidents in early childhood which are not so very good. And it can happen that in spite of all the potential, there are some seeds got planted in the young age. And when we say young age, means between 8 to 17, 18 years when the individuation process is happening. Then these kind of, belief system, which is because of the peak root system, will be visible in the individual. And in the corporate world, we come across many, people who have the dysfunctions or insufficiencies, inadequacies getting manifested in different form and shape. And they need empathy and support. Okay. And I think the progressive modern organizations are considering that kind of investment to help people to overcome these challenges. In my own practice, there are occasions where I said that it's beyond the realm of executive coaching, then probably some psychiatric help or a therapist help is needed because the issues are so deep. So while, Bharat has been talking about the beautiful aspect of life and the self-mastery, there are enough souls in this planet who haven't been beneficiaries of the good things which happened because of circumstances and plus kind of scenario. And therefore, I feel that the necessity and urgency to help to overcome this, because in many workplaces, the role models are indulging in not many things, which if we see it with the other perspective, these are dysfunctions, right? And sometimes the organizations are selfish because these guys, are also getting the P&L delivered, so they can easily discount it. But then it is impacting block many things, and people in short that these are reality of work life, and they deserve help.
Sure. So, I think as Rob mentioned, this is a reality that some people could be in that self-deprecating mode. I think the great thing about the more I've gone into understanding art, spiritual heritage, and tradition, we knew this in slightly different language expressed and so on. And of course, therapy and modern psychology provides immense valuable solutions towards this. But even if you look at some meditation practices, so when we say meditation, it's often treated as, okay, there's just one way to do it, maybe some mantra. So, but if you look at the number of different variety of meditation practices, which have been prescribed for certain purposes, including self-healing, right? So, and you see a lot of this in the Buddhist tradition, where practices for self-compassion, self-love, along with others, because you cannot, if you are only self-loving, then of course you become narcissist. But when you truly understand that it is in including everyone in yourself and loving everyone equally as you love yourself, that the healing process for such traumas can happen. So I personally think that we in India have this great benefit that we can go to modern psychology and see what research in neuroscience and trauma healing and all is happening. We also have our own source material of generations and generations past of very richly distilled wisdom on this healing process for any part of our karmic journey.
Yes, this is a very, very, very valuable points for Wait, I just want to add, since you use the word psychiatrist, I think we also need to understand that the body-mind does have its afflictions. And mental health is definitely as much an ailment as is say diabetes or heart disease or whatever. And the fact is that if there are certain chemicals in the brain which are in short supply and somebody behaves in a certain way, and we have to be compassionate and we have to, with great affection and love and care, direct them to a psychiatrist who will prescribe medications. Why am I saying this? A lot of people who have been watching CNN and who wrote 2018, just before the COVID crisis, they must have heard about Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain was the parts of the chef, the traveling chef, yes. Suddenly, in the month of June 2018, we get the news that he is no more because he committed suicide. And people said, why he was so successful? That funny notion of success. The man must have been facing demons of an extraordinary kind to have become so desperate as to have taken his life. So we have to appreciate that the moment we get this form, We are fractals of the creative intelligence. But the moment we get this form, I like to joke that for, say, each one of us to be here, 4,094 people had to be around just 300 years ago for you to be sitting here with me. And 4,094 here, 4,094 here. So imagine almost more than 30,000 people had to be around 300 years ago for us to be sitting here. Think about it. What an extraordinary set of lives they must have lived. Their trials, their tribulations, the loudness and the tragedies they must have experienced for us to be here together. It's amazing. So we have to, as people, reflect on these things. And I think that really is what we make it. I think Roger also emphasized.
So before I go on to my couple of more questions, anybody here has any question?
Great.
Yeah.
We were discussing about the basically person seeing their own deficiencies and trying to work on that by it could be psychiatrist or whatever is psychologist, whatever. But I would like to understand normally the people we are looking for that, who are looking into their deficiencies, are not the successful people. They have done something in their life and that's why they have reached to that level. So if a successful person is there and he finds there are certain deficiencies are there, but he has been successful all along with that, so why he need to change? He may say that I would like to change. Is it happen? It can happen like that. I mean, if at all I feel there is a need to change, I will change. But if I'm successful with something, with whatever deficiencies I have got, why I should change? Because the way I am,
If you didn't broke, why fix? If you did broke, why fix? That's the end of.
I would like to understand that.
So may I?
Go ahead.
So you're saying that if a successful person is successful and remains that way, what's it going to change? There is no incentive. Or at least outwardly you think the person is successful. The truth is that many successful people are having relationship issues, they have health issues, they are not able to be at ease, they are restless, they're agitated. They're insecure, they're worried about somebody else taking their position, and you think they are at peace. So these are the kind of conditions in our interiority which will eventually force us to say, hey, I can't live in this kind of difficult situation in my interiority. I need to do something about it. So that is the real reason why people will come. Not just to a therapist, they could even come to a friend and unlearn themselves. But one thing I must mention here, we start by talking about the movie Inside Out in this book. Now, Inside Out 1 is referred to here. Because Inside Out 1 is a beautiful movie. And now Inside Out 2 has been released a few months ago. And it has grossed $1.5 billion US. What has happened is that the girl Riley, who was basically a young girl in the first movie, has become a teenager, and now she's concerned about anxiety. She's concerned about embarrassment. She's concerned about order and envy. So if somebody is successful in having all these emotions, that person isn't at ease. That person can't have fun. So that becomes the motivation for someone to seek guidance.
I appreciate. But then basically it comes to the ultimately to the values. What values I am preaching to myself. So in that case, if at all I have got the values of that type, that I am a loner. I am successful and that makes me loner. Probably I will not go for it. May I say that?
Possible.
I'm sorry. I think you have a point. But I would also, just become your word. That ultimately in life, what matters is the service, right? What you perceive as a success, right? Your stakeholders may perceive it differently, right? And I think that perspective is very important. And sometimes, there are many people from HR and practicing, executive coaching. Sometimes when the deep conversations happen, we also discover, like what you are trying to hint at, is that there's no motivation. You use the word incentive. There's no motivation for me to do, but there is a serious watch out here that if there are enough residual issues, you perceive yourself to be successful, and mind and body is connected, it will start showing up in your physical and mental health in due course of time. And then you would be compelled to review and revisit the success word which you are very proudly saying that I am successful. Then if you look at it in a very holistic manner, then probably you got the name, fame and money, but probably the health part, the mental health part, the inner health part, you didn't pay the required heat, and then the consequences are in hand. And maybe at some point of time, your family members and other people, will also come back to you if you start having some meaningful conversations with them that seeing was not believing what you were actually perceiving. Okay. Go back to some questions I had. But back to you. We mentioned about being assertive. Now, a lot of people get confused between, like you had mentioned, but assertiveness and aggressiveness. How can I be assertive without appearing to be aggressive?
This is a common question, but this question will be dispelled very easily when I tell you that one of the essential features of assertive communications is that you are respectful to yourself and respectful to others. And you will not raise your voice, you will not thump the desk. You will use all your capabilities as a human being with verbal fluency to express yourself as clearly, as lucidly as possible. You will use I statements, which means you're taking ownership of your state of mind, your expectations, your boundaries, and accordingly express them. So this can never come forth as aggressive. And when somebody is talking to you aggressively and you respond assertively, again, your assertive response will immediately diffuse whatever aggression's coming. I've done this a lot of times with leaders, and they're amazed at how the conversation starts up with a lot of anger from the other side when dealt with assertively. Immediately the balloon is all in its head.
That's mindfulness one thing. Yeah, mindfulness is a state of mind which can be applied across the board. So to be, first of all, not get triggered in a situation where someone is aggressive, to remember the basics. Bharat would have done that, video so many years ago. Many people would have seen that video, and some of them would be mindful about it throughout their careers. I hope many of them. And some may have not, taken it to heart because people are different. So mindfulness is really about what is the most important and what is the right thing for me to do at this point of time. It could be assertiveness. At some point of time, it is reaching out and being compassionate. At some point of time, it may even be, just recognizing your boundaries versus the boundaries of the others. Yeah, it's definitely awesome. It goes back to respecting yourself and listening. And also, I think the one is mindfulness as a state, and second is mindfulness as a practice, or I would say let's just talk about meditation in general. So anyone who has a meditation practice, they are able to bring that resourceful state of mind that allows them to be, say, assertive when needed or compassionate when needed. It's more accessible to them because then their mind is also fluid. They use that fluidity of being. So the mind also becomes more fluid and all of the rigid. Okay, he's shouting at me, so I have to shout at him. It allows you to take a different path. So I think important point as I think it crossed my mind when I was first talking about that's assertive. At a mindset level, if you really see, aggressive people have a mindset that I'm okay, you are not. Whereas assertive people are very certain that you are okay, I'm also okay. Right? But the passive aggressive has a different mindset. I'm not okay, you are okay. So you go ahead, right? And I think this is what is to be mapped pretty early when you are having the conversations or communication with people. And I think if you convey or express what you want to without being judging other person, right? It becomes much more easier and graceful, right? And the end goal is achieved. And by demeaning and putting other person, which you can sense it from the body language, right? You can resolve many conflicts if you operate from that understanding.
Every short temperedness is also like this. That
Short temperedness means a person is triggered by something outside to react aggressively more angrily. Absolutely correct. And self-mastery and guidance and coaching can help such people become calmer people who understand themselves and their responses to stimuli much better. There's a question from that side. Tell us your name, please.
Chinmay. I have a question related to mindfulness. It might sound a little philosophical or consciousness. So, who is our greatest enemy as well as our best friend except our mind?
This question. I think it's your thoughts. So if your thoughts are healthy, positive, it's your friend. Right? And in fact, instead of thoughts, I would say the thoughts generates your emotions. Okay? So if your thoughts are pure and healthy one, it's your friend. And they said it's line with this in the husband, right? The clear your mind and his thoughts are there.
Yeah. No, but Chinmay, he actually gave us a googly. He said without the mind, the mind is out of the discussion.
Okay.
Which is your best friend and the worst enemy other than the mind. So I'll be quiet. Secondly, it's really a good question.
Do you have any?
I don't have the answer.
Well, I'll just say that if you're putting the mind aside, then what remains? The pure awareness is only your greatest friend. It can never become your enemy. It's then the source of consciousness. So it's a friend, not an enemy.
Yes,
Probably
would like to answer is I'm trying to.
perfect.
So they say the breath is your friend. So if you're happy, your breathing is really in a positive way. And when you're sad, your breathing is very heavy. So it depends on your breath, when you want to be happy and when you be sad. So I think breath is your friend as well as your enemy.
Thank you. We will have to go around the room and do pronouns. Everybody is enlightened master of sorts.
Thanks to you. One more thing that we talked about, respect yourself, respect others. In my view, one way to respect others, first thing, is listening and not just hearing. How do you achieve that? Because all of us just hear, not listen.
I learned my coaching many years ago from Edgar Schein, who has been my guru, and I have had the greatest of respect for his teachings. He would talk about humble inquiry and listening with, as even Anurag mentioned this, if you listen or talk without judgment, you are automatically going to be very respectful of what the other person is saying. And if you listen to not just the words, but the feelings and emotions which are behind the words, you will get a good understanding of what is being conveyed. So I think this is at the heart of good coaching, of good rapport building, of good connection forming. Listening is very essential. A lot of more successful people think that, I have to keep on talking. I'm sorry to say, that is unfortunately distancing so many people from each other. It's becoming a bit of an epidemic, a public health issue.
So I think you are very right. As you achieve more success, as I call it TTP, telling, teaching, preaching becomes the role requirement for me, perceived role requirement. And I think, whereas if, what Bharat is saying, if you see the title of the book, what Atlassian is written, it's a bestseller for decades, Humble Inquiry. And some people also, must have read the book called Appreciative Inquiry, right? And I think if you are humble and if you are willing to inquire, ask, you give all possible value of which is like a fundamental requirement to a relationship, with no negotiation. It's like your natural service to the relationship. So you already said it. I was telling you in the beginning that probably most of your questions we can draw from what Bharat has said. But I don't have to do that already. But use the term service. And I think as Bharat mentioned in the beginning, that spirit of service. So it's not that service comes in only, okay, I'm going and doing this work with this NGO or giving this donation. Every aspect of your life becomes service. So even if you're chatting with a friend, if eternally that mindset and that state of being happens, that even this 5-minute conversation on the phone or when I'm meeting them is a form of seva. Right? You get into that mindset, then active listening, deep listening, rapid, all of that will happen. You can learn various techniques and so on, they're good. But it starts with this belief and this mindset. Even in this discussion with you, what service can I be to this person? What value can I bring to us mutually? And it's always mutual, because then once you're deeply in that level, then there is not even you and the other, right? It's in that 5 minutes, both of you will have grown as human beings in that you shared connection.
But one more question is, you mentioned about enjoying your work and that kind of thing. Enjoying your work and making your work meaningful. Is there an overlap? Are they Mars and Venus? Or how do you make that both these things happen?
So actually, there's a strong connection. I really believe that if you choose a vocation which you love, where you really are using your gifts, your unique abilities, your superpowers to serve others, it can only be fun and enjoy. The reason there is so much anguish at the workplace today is because people are not doing the things they enjoy. A person who would rather be playing tennis is sitting in an office pushing files. A person who'd rather be, doing something with children is forced to work in a hotel. And we have mismatches like this which cause a great deal of anguish. But our default state, as I said in the very beginning, is joy, is peace, is happiness, is fun, excitement, creativity. And therefore it is and we mentioned this in the part about work also, that it is important that we find the kind of work that truly enthuses us. I read the word entheos, enthusiasm. The root is entheos, bringing God into it. Entheos. When will God, you're the same divine element. So when will that come out? When you are doing your creative best, giving your unique gifts. That is the connection. And I'm sorry to say it, and that this brings me back to your question, sir, about the fact that what if a successful person is, doing something over? Does that incentive to talk? The fact is, lots of such people, if you do a survey of their immediate reporters, they say, please, so coaching. Please, I said, I cannot coach a client unless he comes to me. Or he says, board members telling that he needs to be coached. Sir, he said, Please. The बातचीत है कुछ करता है. And these are real statements of people at very senior levels. And these are people shaking their heads here, so it's not so uncommon.
But there is one solution which is coming by the individuals only. That they are retiring at 40. So when you retire at 40, it doesn't mean that you are going to watch movies and things like that. So what they do, that I will retire at 40 or whatever age is, they are at their age, not 60. And then I would like to pursue my own hobbies. I would like to do something which appeals me. So in that case, I will be able to basically fulfill my those wishes that whatever I was not doing my job, which was not good for me or whatever is there. So I will try to do something on my own.
I will answer that question in a lighter way.
It's not a question. I just
React to that in a lighter way. All of us in this phrase that do what you love and love what you do. Most of us can't do what we love, so we have to end up love what we do.
That's true. That's not. I think. Bharat has, in the first chapter when he's talking about self-mastery, right? Self-mastery, till 90s was a little difficult, fluffy word, and it is still in some people's perspective. But as a student of science or personality, I can now say with the higher certainty that today, what drives me, what gives me a joy, and what will put me in flow, or what will increase my engagement and contributions, I think scientifically today it is possible, right? And the accuracy and reliability of the facts which gets revealed is as good as a Tesla MRI. Okay. So I think things are changing, things are advancing, and I think in workplace today those things are becoming more evident and visible. It is practiced, and I think while if you look at the social media, the Gallup flooding us with the data on disengagement and stuff like this because that's their bread and butter, right? But then I think they're not actually helping people to directionally go in a right point to seek help or assistance, whether it is sponsored by company or if I've got to sponsor myself, because for me, self-mastery matters, right? Because that's a place where I get the joy and enjoyment, the fulfillment, right? And if I get that, then giving service becomes so much natural to me. So I think I also subscribe to this idea that self-help is a beautiful idea. You can't get all the help from the self-help books alone. I think today's science is advanced and there are enough resources. If your internal resources are not able to serve you, then leverage external resources and get help if joy and enjoyment really matters to oneself.
Sure, great, thanks. We don't have time, so one last question to you, Bharat. Many people will say, or at least I can say, first part, yeah, fine, I read the book. All of us will say, yeah, I attended this session. Now tell me, what should I do Monday morning?
I love that for his very, very pointed questions. So what is it that you have to do the moment you read the book and you're ready to start? First and foremost, be true to yourself. If you're in a job which sucks, acknowledge that. If you don't have time for your well-being, with your health, acknowledge that. If you are not having relationships with people who matter in your life, acknowledge that. Because the moment you acknowledge something, you are automatically bringing it front and center, and the solutions will emerge from your own self, as Anurag very rightly said. Or you'll find the right kind of people in your friend circle, or maybe get a coach or someone who will help you to navigate that. That's it. Acknowledge. Agree that this is a problem. A boss who refuses to take feedback from HR, which says, sir, your immediate reportees are feeling irritated. They find you intimidating. Finished. He'll never change. Or women employees in companies are saying this is an intimidating male-dominated company. And the CEO who's a male says that these are women who have learned to deal with us. Danger signal. Danger signal. Because the person is not acknowledging what is coming up. So in the same way, we have to acknowledge as individuals that there is something which needs to change. The moment you bring it front and center, you'll be amazed. Change will happen.
Thank you so much. I just like to end on a lighter note. I'm not in the best of company to make this statement here, but I've yet to see an HR person actually going up to the CEO and saying that, boss, you think there are people saying something against you.
Yes, sir. You give us enormous surveys.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the much trouble. Now, please. Now comes the good part. So, as always, we start with giving books to our panelists. So, let me call in Ashay from Pustakwale to hand over the books.
While we are waiting for formalities, my book, Savita's book, is available for you to pick up. I'm here to sign it for you. And I was LinkedIn, as I'm sure Vivek and Ravi also. So we'd love to stay in touch with you on LinkedIn and other social media.
Absolutely. Yes. It's the use. Thank you. Like, I also read that something with the balance. Victoria has a major part in very, very. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Shetty. Shetty from IMDR. Once again, thanks to IMDR. So much amazing character. As always, we have these perfume bottles from Fragrance Story, and this time he's packed them in a biodegradable bag made from apple waste. So, and we invite, where is she? Jia. Just at the right moment, she stepped out. Kita. So, like I said, everybody's really written from Chichwar. They come out again, send their people, and they'll give you a hamper as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out to cite the questions and being with us, hearing us out. If you have any more questions for understanding yourselves and master yourself, they're there for some more time. Our next session is on 20th of September. If you are lucky, it will be in GNPC because the session is like that. Harish Bhatt and R. Gopal Krishnan have written a book on self-checking data. So we've been fortunate to have R. Gopal Krishnan himself come down and talk about his book. And therefore, if it is at TNTC, it will be a great react when you can use your word of assistance. Give us the day. But as always, watch that space on Between the Lines or LinkedIn. But 20th September book, author, everything is fixed. I'll come to know soon. Thank you and have a good weekend. Thank you so much.